Do you think that someone can realistically change their identity through mindset work alone?
I do believe a person can, but I do think it's not mindset alone.
What do you think one key mindset shift that you made?
I could sometimes still get a little bit on edge or agitated when things don't go a certain way at home.
How easy is it to get trapped in that mindset, and what advice do you have for anyone that is in that position? There are moments in life where growth doesn't come from doing more, it comes from understanding more. Understanding the beliefs we carry, the thoughts we repeat, and the invisible patterns that quietly shape the direction of our lives. In a world that celebrates achievement and productivity, we rarely pause to ask whether we're aligned with who we truly are. Because success on the outside can often feel incomplete when there is uncertainty on the inside. This is what the ZoShow is here to explore. Real conversations about mindset, identity, growth, and impact. Not just what people achieve, but how they think, how they evolve, and what it takes to create meaningful change in both life and business. ZoShow now sits under the Zoheb Sadiq umbrella, where my wider work focuses on brand clarity, personal development, strategic positioning, and helping people and organizations communicate their purpose with greater confidence and direction. If you value conversations that challenge your perspective and help you grow in new ways, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you never miss future episodes. Because the goal of this platform is simple: to document real journeys and explore deeper thinking, and to create conversations that lead to transformation. Today's guest is someone whose work sits right at the intersection of mindset, emotional intelligence, and personal evolution. Suman Manghra is a personal development specialist, coach, speaker, and is often referred to as the manifestation maven. With a strong background in psychology, coaching, and leadership, she helps people reconnect with themselves, build emotional resilience, and step into their most authentic and empowered selves. Her work blends spirituality with practical tools to create real, lasting transformation. Alongside her coaching, Suman works within communities and social enterprise, supporting people at a grassroots level to create meaningful change and more fulfilling lives. So, Suman Manghra, welcome to the ZoShow.
Thanks for having me.
It's amazing, isn't it? We're here 5 years after the very first episode. I mean, I can't believe it. It's at the time of this recording, all those years ago when it was COVID, I was live streaming on Facebook and other social media channels. What's it like to be back after all that time?
It's exciting, and every time I've been with yourself, we've both been on journeys where we've been evolving, and then it's so interesting to see your journey as well, and then just having that reconnection each time, and then that time to almost let's reflect, let's reset, what's next. It's so nice. It's always been honestly, every time I've been invited on your shows, it's always been such a privilege. So I'm always a bit stumped when I'm asked this. And for somebody who's done so much work in the field we've done, and we do this whole elevator pitch, I think because I'm such a person who adapts and changes, I'm always like, what's my new elevator pitch? So let's go for it. So I'm Suman Manghra, founder of Manifestation Maven. I've also now founded VSM Management and Consultancy Limited. So I've brought together doing my love of coaching and personal development, but doing project work where I can fit it into certain organisations now. So more of what I'm doing in a more, meeting more people type of way. I think that's any good. I'm sure I can work on that.
Yeah. So in terms of the work that you do, obviously it covers so many areas as we've just said earlier on. But the third question is, what first led you into the world of mindset, NLP, and inner transformation?
So I think just working on my own journey was a big step. If I peel the layers back whenever I've spoke about this, I actually think this isn't something we've delved into before, about where did it all actually start. So for me, when I first was in college and university, I was quite academic and I was studying a range of things. And even I am today, I kind of liked everything. I just loved learning. So it was also what direction are you going to go into? And at that point when I was making a decision, it was going to be computers or business studies or advertising, marketing and things like that. And then all of a sudden, one of the random subjects I'd chosen just for points, remember Newcastle points and all that?
Yeah.
I was I did psychology, and it was actually one of my strongest subjects. I clearly loved it, I enjoyed it, I understood it. And I don't know, lastminute.com, I was just forget all these other avenues, I'm going down this route. I don't call it intuition, call it just whatever reason came up for me. I think if I go on a more personal level, there was a lot of things going on at home at the time. And I think it really opened me up to, if I learn about this, I might be able to help people at home. This is what first actually came up in my mind. But on the journey, I learned so much more about myself. And then fast forward to when I came out of university and when I even did my master's in work psychology, I actually was like, what area would I like to go into? And I remember a person coming to one of the modules and sharing about growth model he showed about coaching, and I thought, what's this coaching? And it's something that just stayed with me. So then all of a sudden I had a chance to do a life coaching course, and I was just like, I just loved it. And I met another life coach, and then that's, I think, it's the first bit where it just opened me up to, before I went into other modality of personal development. That was definitely my first points of why I got fascinated by the mind and how the mind works.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously moments in your life. So was there a defining moment in your life where you realised how powerful the mind truly is?
Absolutely. I'm actually glad you asked me this question. So what happened was, it was, again, the way universe just works, and I started learning about this too, and why I bring together the mindset and the universe, and how can you get synergy in that space. Because a friend of a friend that I met at the time, by chance, she's just like, guess what? I'm doing a life coaching course. I said, are you? So am I. And we were actually on the same program at the time. Now, this was, I'm talking about 2008, 2009. This was before social media days, and before, even the internet, was just the early days for things like Google and stuff. So this was actually a home-based study course that we did, where they sent us out DVD packs and workbooks to our address to learn, and you'd have to fill out these exams and things and post it back to them. So it was a different format of learning, but she was doing the exact same course as me, and I was just like, oh my God, that's interesting. Now, part of that course was saying, if you can, get yourself a coach, because you'll learn a lot from them. So I just met this coach. She's doing the same program as me. It makes sense that I have some coaching with her. So she was actually my very first coach, and I'd love to give her a shout out right now. It's Rose Body, and she's the lady who I did my own podcast with as well, this many years later. So I've had a fantastic relationship with her over the years. Now, a very pivotal moment for me was in one of the sessions I did with her. She was talking to me about certain mindset blocks and limiting beliefs and things like this. And I started talking about and opening up about when I do things for myself. And it was really weird. I was just describing to her what was what for me. I was like, well, sometimes when I'm trying to do something, I feel like I'm going to let my parents down, or I think I might upset them, or I don't know, I just feel like they're not going to be fully happy me doing something that I want to do. Because that had kind of, I think, mirrored in my life in different ways at that time. So that was my experience. That was my belief. And I was explaining to her how sometimes, she's like, how does it feel when you do something for yourself? I said, I don't know, I get nervous. I said, I get a bit of a tight feeling in my stomach. Sometimes I get a tight feeling in my throat. I don't know. And she just said one word to me, which I've never used to describe how I was. She goes, you sound like you're very guilty. She used the word guilt. And I was just like, I'm not guilty. She goes, what it sounds like to me. I'm just saying what it sounds like. And I thought, I really sat with that, and I thought, and she got me to open up in my mind about, why are you feeling guilty for doing something for yourself? And then she painted a different picture for me. She goes, say that you did something anyways now. You go and do your own thing. You still feel the guilt, but you do it anyways. But then you do really well with it. How will your parents feel? I said, they'd be really proud. They'd be happy for me. They want me to be, there's love in the way that they're being with me. So they wouldn't have an issue. She goes, so what's the issue? And I was just like, there is no issue. Why am I being so guilty about doing stuff? And then all of a sudden, it's like this whole new world opened up for me, where I just started doing this. And yeah, I felt really unstoppable in that moment. Then I was just like, why was I carrying that around?
Yeah. How do you think someone can come out of that guilt? Because obviously it's easy to get trapped in that mindset. How do you break free from that?
For me, it was definitely by speaking to a coach like myself. And having that realization, because sometimes you need a mirror held up to certain things, and also labeling things. Sometimes, like in that moment, I didn't label it as guilt. We don't realize we're carrying guilt. Sometimes we might be carrying shame for something. We might be carrying anger, resentment for different things. And I just feel like until things ain't given a label at times, what I've noticed in my world, people I work with, labeling something really connects something inside them and makes them feel like now that I know what it is, I can do something about it. So, but there's so many different ways to deal with letting go of guilt. And I think ultimately it depends on where that guilt is built from, what's created it, and diving into that in order to unravel that.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously all the work that you've done, who were you before this work and who are you now?
Gosh, I feel like I've always been a confident person, but I've definitely have grown so much in my confidence. It's the biggest thing I love supporting people with, are building their confidence. I think before I was a person who was a little bit more like, as much as I'm such a speaking person and I talk a lot, and you can use the word talkative, I think I have always been talkative, but I think I used to feel like I wasn't heard before, and there was a part of me that felt really unheard, or maybe sometimes gets unnoticed, as much as I've got so much to share and do and give. I was also an overgiver. I am still an overgiver. I will hold my hands up. But I think I've got a little bit more limits on it now. I'm a bit more mindful where I can be with it. And I think the other side of that has also been sometimes overcompensating to try and make up for some kind of lack. So the old me would have been like, going above and beyond, or really trying to be so helpful. Definitely people-pleasing qualities that I had that I thought was a quality, and with time I realised it's a bit of a barrier. So yeah, it's like I still want to do stuff, but I do it in a very intentional and mindful way now, rather than just without limits.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think people are sometimes searching for external success because they haven't found internal clarity?
100%. And I think I have also been there myself. I'm still working a bit on that journey. That is that part of why I do what I do. But I think each time the answer comes back to me that I'm here to serve people. I'm here to serve in a way that is gonna, I guess it's about that ripple effect you have in the world. When you can affect even one person, two people, the changes they go on and make and help others, and they thrive in the space they're in. I feel like I've done my job then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think that's a really good point that you've made. I think it depends on what that success is, because success could mean so many different things to different people. It could be materialistic success. It could be financial success. It could be certain status that a person wants. I think all of that is sometimes linked to something else going on with them. So until a person doesn't go into that deeper space with it, only they can know.
Yeah, yeah. I think we've both come from a space of personal development, and we've had similar mentors and maybe a similar journey in recent years. But in your kind of on words, what's that first step to breaking a limiting belief?
Oh, okay. Again, identifying what the limiting belief is. To even whether you speak with a coach, whether you do like a journaling exercise. Journaling can be a fantastic way to write down your thoughts and feelings. And it could be something that's not working well in your life. You just sit there and write it down, and just write down all your thoughts around it. You'll be surprised what kind of beliefs will start coming out. It might even be things that you've heard growing up, massive ones. If I give an example, sometimes it's easier to make sense. So people have a lot of different beliefs around money, and a majority of us have grown up with that concept. Money is the root of evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money's hard to come by. You have to work very hard to get money. And so all these concepts are just universal concepts. You know, you hear them in films, you read it in books. Your family will have always heard it growing up, so they naturally will project that upon you when you're growing up. So these type of things, you might not even realise you're carrying a limiting belief about something until you start opening up about what's going on with yourself. Is a certain area of your life you're struggling with or seeing repeat patterns with? And I think that tells a story, and that should then hopefully lead a person towards, okay, let's start looking at, have I got limiting beliefs? Because depending on where you are in your journey, if you're open to reflecting, if you're open to growth, you're going to be more open to identifying and seeing those limiting beliefs about yourself. But there are people I've met, and they're not on that journey, or they're not ready to be on that journey yet. And for them, their belief is really hardwired. They believe what they believe, and they're like, of course, that's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, limiting belief is obviously it's obviously such a big mindset shift, isn't it? But do you think that someone can realistically change their identity through mindset work alone?
Interesting question. Alone, I do believe a person can, but I do think it's not mindset alone. You need to integrate it with other things too. But I think it's a big core part of it. I think without the mindset, the other things won't happen, such as if you're going to do behavior changes, if you want to change your patterns, if you want to change attitudes about things, if you want to change the way you're reacting and responding to people. There's more to it. I mean, even with the work we've done, say, for example, we're learning how to speak better, articulate ourselves. In that, mindset is linked to it, but it's more, that's a skill that you're building. The skill is around articulating yourself in a certain way, getting a point across in a better way, being able to connect with certain words when you're speaking to certain people to make a certain point. Those things are not necessarily mindset, but I think when you work on your mindset, it leads you into these places where you start working on the things that you need to start aligning with the identity and the actions.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think? What's one mindset shift? I did this. What's one mindset shift that you think you made? In terms of that development, what do you think one key mindset shift that you made in maybe recent years or even just recently?
There's definitely a recent one I'd love to share, but I feel like there's so many, so I'm like, where do I start? Probably should write a book on it. I think for me, more recently, because I'm a mum now as well, I think there's definitely a big, massive change in who I've been as an individual to begin with, but now it's like, well, what's my son think of this, or how's this influencing him? How am I going to be the role model for him? And a big thing that came up for me recently was I could sometimes still get a little bit on edge or agitated when things don't go a certain way at home. And especially around Christmas time, we celebrate it. We love celebrating it. And there's always so much to organise and do. And I just want things to be a certain way. But if it's not done a certain way, I get a bit irritated and a bit annoyed. And then I might snap at, say, my husband or just in general. And I just had a reflection this year. I was like, you know what, growing up, whenever that used to be the atmosphere at home, if somebody got annoyed or upset, it would just spoil the whole day and the occasion for everybody. And I just thought, I don't want my son to feel that. I just don't want to be that person. So I started being more mindful about digging into myself. Where's this coming from? I think I've learned a lot of that perfectionism from my family and from my mom, my sisters. She learned it from my mom too. So I had these role models who always just showed me that. So I was exposed to that behaviour. It just became a bit part of me. But now, because of the work I do, I was a bit more like, I'm identifying that behaviour is not great. I don't want to be that way going forward. I just want to be mindful of the harmony that I've got creating that in my household. That's part of that is up to me. It's not fully my responsibility because there's so many others in my household, but a big part of it will come from me, especially when it comes to my son. So yeah, that was an interesting shift that I did. And one day when things weren't going perfect, and I'm going to be honest here, I'll just share this. First time in so many years, my turkey didn't even defrost properly in the morning. And I thought, here we go. But I just let it go. I thought, if the food's cooked late, it's cooked late. If my son didn't want to sit at the table and have dinner with us because he wants to run around playing with his toys, I said, let him. So certain things I had just let go, and things that I talk about all the time about letting go, I had to massively let go of certain expectations or standards that I was creating. And I'm like, where is this coming from? So I think there's a bit of small work for me to do on this, but I definitely feel like I've come a long way to where I've been before.
Yeah, it's amazing to obviously see you and, enter motherhood as well. What's that taught you?
So much. Oh my gosh, I didn't think it was going to teach me so much. I knew it would, but it's one of those, until you're not experiencing it, you can't understand it. And you'll hear everybody say, you wait till you're a mum, then you'll know. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then you become a mum. And something that actually struck me that people don't talk about, and I don't know if it's universal, I don't know if it's common with all mums, but a lot of, and I hate to use the word, but I'm going to use it, a lot of trauma started coming up for me from the way I was parented. And, just certain things I'm like, how could they have said this to me as a child? I'm looking at this baby thinking I could never speak to this child like this, or I could never make them feel this way. Why was that happening to me? And then it almost made me have a little bit of resentment come up, like burying stuff that I thought I'd dealt with and healed from, and I clearly hadn't. But it was interesting because it just came in front of me almost like to show me that, look, you may have been through this, but this doesn't mean you need to expose your child to this. It's almost like that. Again, this sounds so cliched, but it's so true. This stops with me. If it's a generational thing that's been going on from generations, it stops with me. Like, hey, my child's going to be showered with love, care. Not that I wasn't, but I think the other things sometimes that I was exposed to sometimes made me not see the love and care as much because, you know, it's one of those. It wasn't just a black and white childhood. It was a blended, and there's so many good memories I have too, and amazing things that my parents have done for me. But certain things where, you know, but again, just having grace for my parents because raising one child is so much, I feel, to me. They had 6 of us. God, no wonder they were crazy. No wonder they were doing the hair out. Because, gosh, being a parent, I realised that it actually has given me a newfound love and respect for them as well.
Yeah.
So,
In terms of like your own family, then your siblings and just, you know, in terms of yourself, like how was it growing up in terms of, did you always feel that did you ever think that you'd be doing the things that you're doing now as you were growing up?
No, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was there at one point when, like, at least probably even 10 years ago, I was working in an office and I was doing like office-based work and I thought, yeah, this is it for me. But even that, I didn't realise what, like, caged way I was living that wasn't suiting me. It wasn't me. And now when I'm doing so much, like, I guess what's the word? It's not like the standard way that we think that a job should be. And growing up with these like ideas about this is what a job is. And my mum is still confused about what I'm doing. She goes, I don't actually know what you do. I said, don't worry about it. You don't need to do it, so don't worry. I'll try to explain it. But I think she's still in a world where you have to have that, like, you know, this
set structure and stuff.
Or a job title that makes sense to them, like doctor or bank manager. You come around and say, I do transformational work.
Manifestation.
Work. It sounds very woo-woo to them. Oh, you're one of those crazy women that just goes around, like, I don't know, chanting things and
reading cards or that sort of stuff.
I do card reading.
Yeah. It's all part of it. Yeah.
Do that to my work.
But there's a big misconception about it. And the one thing I want to ask was, obviously, we've had, obviously, this is obviously the 4th or 5th time now that you've been on this podcast. So, and then we've had so many different conversations about what that means, manifestation, energy. It's actually a lot of things that I learned when we first had that episode 5 years ago. And it's something that I think back to quite a lot now, and I apply it day to day and in various stages of my life. But do you think manifestation, is it about mindset, energy, action, or is it all three?
It's definitely all three. I think a lot of people sometimes get confused when you first start on your manifestation journey, and you'll watch things like The Secret or read a book, or you could read any kind of book in this field, and it's around, you know, talks about mindset in terms of what you're in a dialogue, and it kind of goes into this space of wishful thinking. If I just sit there and keep saying, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, £1,000,000 are going to drop into your pocket like that, and then a lot of people out there argue it. They're like, that's not how the world works, and that's not what's going to happen. In my experience, certain things I have just had an idea in my head and an energetic thought, and I put it out to the universe, and all of a sudden within a few days or a few months something happens that I'm like, that's happened. And sometimes that hasn't happened. There's certain things I'm still working on and manifesting for myself that haven't come to fruition yet, but I have full faith that they will at the right timing if I keep doing the right actions, if I keep doing the right behaviours. So I think definitely having the right energy, that we talked about this previously, bringing it up again now for any new viewers. You've got that whole part of it that we all vibration, and we vibrate. Our thoughts have vibration, our actions have vibrations, and we have to vibrate at a certain frequency in order to be aligned with the frequency that you want to attract in yourself. But sometimes there's part of us that's already at the frequency. That's why I think some things can come on the basis of just putting it out to the universe, and some things won't, because we need to become that person who's ready to receive that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's definitely all of those for any kind of, say, ultimate manifestation.
Yeah. You mentioned about maybe certain things haven't transpired the way that you wanted, and or that you might think that this hasn't happened yet. Just explain that a bit deeper, because I had a similar conversation with somebody last week about where they are in their life, what they've done, what they've achieved. And actually they were younger than me, and they were saying, I wish I'd done more. oh, I wish I'd done networking or podcasting, or wish I'd done this and that. How easy is it to get trapped in that mindset, and what advice do you have for anyone that is in that position?
So it is a common thing that happens. Like I've said, it's happened to me. Like I could be doing the work I'm doing and still, I've got so much to still learn every day. It's still a school day for me. But I think first of all, it's part of the journey. I think it is quite normal for anybody growing, developing. It's never going to be a straight line. It's not supposed to be a straight line. Life is not supposed to be a straight line. I mean, I often make the joke about, if you've got a person on a life machine, it's going like this, something like that.
Yeah.
The minute it's a straight line, so that's not what we're aiming for here. That's not what life is. I think there's layers to this, as I always talk about. I think sometimes it depends, where is this coming from, this idea of you need to be a certain place by whatever time. And this again just goes back to things like, what society imposed upon us, what have your parents projected upon you, put expectancies in place that this is how life should look. A lot of us get it now as well, that when I was your age, our older generation will say, I had done this by then, I'd got married, I'd had 10 children, what have you done? And this comparison keeps coming up, and we're comparing ourselves to people who worked a very different way back then. They earned a different way. Life is different now, like social media, internet didn't exist then, simpler living, all of that. But also, on one wage, you could run a household. Cost of living has gone up. Inflation goes up so much more than wages. So we're not actually earning the same that they used to earn. And so we're not living the same life. So all this heaviness, these pressures we put upon ourselves is a big reason why we just feel like we haven't done what we're supposed to have done. But we need to remember that God will always take us where we're supposed to be, and we're always in the exact right space at the right time. I think sometimes personally for me, I think a lot of people will relate to this when I share this. Our mind can be running at 100 miles an hour, and we are just wanting to be there right now. But life needs you to navigate through life some certain scenic route and way for you to learn different things as you're going along. Because honestly, the person I am today, I may have wished to be that person 10 years ago, but I wasn't supposed to be that person then, because I wouldn't have learned half of the stuff that I've learned along the way now. So we are always at the right space. We just don't appreciate it till further down the line, and we have hindsight, and we look back and we say, oh, you know what, that had to happen that way, because that's what's helped me be where I am now.
Yeah.
I do also want to just add another caveat to that. I think sometimes when we keep flitting what we want from life, where we want to be, some of us will change that dialogue a lot. 1 minute we want to be this, next minute it's like, I don't quite want to be that, I want to be this. And that's normal too. Because there's going to be times, and this happened in my life, where I thought I wanted a certain thing and I actually achieve that thing. I'll get that job title, or I'll get that, I'm doing that certain type of work. An example I'll give, I really wanted to work remotely at one point. I remember going to the office all the time and thinking, I'd love to work from home. I'd love to work from home. Why can't we just work from home? It would be so much easier to work from home. Then, as we all know, lockdown happens and a lot of people started working from home. And shortly after that, I also remember landing a position where I was working remotely, fully remote. And I remember feeling, oh my God, I don't like this. This isn't that great. I like meeting people. I like engaging with people. I need something that's a bit more hybrid. But I had to have it and achieve it in order to learn, is this for me? So I think this is the best advice I'd give to anybody in that space, that go through the experiences, reflect and learn from that. And always it comes down to, what do you want more of and what do you want less of? For me, it was like, I want less of being at home all the time, but I want more of that flexibility. So a hybrid role was then perfect for me, and which I've manifested now.
Do you think also being in the wrong environment, can that sometimes hinder people's progress?
100%. 100%. I think, again, I love, me, I love my metaphors and analogies. They always talk about like a flower. A flower or plant will bloom in the right environment. It gets the right sunlight, it gets the right amount of water, it's got the right nutrients in the soil. There will be a part of our essence that will wither away, though, if you're not in the right environment. So recognizing it early and knowing this isn't for me, that's actually been a big part of my journey too recently, of if this isn't aligned, it's not happening. And I need to shift from this sooner than later to get into a more aligned space. So environment is massive.
Yeah. Out of all the self-development that you've done, we met at shout out for Public Speaking Academy and Bilal Jamil. But we've obviously met at other events, and obviously, it's clear to see that you've done so much over the years to improve your self-development, your qualifications, the way you help people now. What was the biggest experience that you've went through in terms of self-development? Was there like a pivotal moment that you thought, yeah, this has really helped me?
Before we continue this conversation, I want to take a moment to share something important about the evolution of this platform. The ZoShow now sits proudly under the Zoheb Sadiq umbrella. And that's not just a structural change. It reflects a deeper alignment within the conversations that we're having here, and also the work that I'm doing beyond this podcast. Through Zoheb Sadiq, my focus is on helping individuals, brands and businesses build clarity around who they are, how they communicate, and how they position themselves for meaningful growth. Whether that's through brand strategy, content development, personal brand guidance, workshops, or consultancy. Because in many ways, this show is an extension of that mission. It's about exploring the thinking behind progress, the psychology behind success, and the stories behind people creating impact in their own spaces. The goal is not just to create content, it's to create conversations that lead to transformation. So if you resonate with the ideas that are being shared on this platform and are looking to elevate your brand, your message, or your direction, you can find out more about my work through the Zoheb Sadiq channels. But for now, let's return to the conversation.
Because I've done so much, it's so hard to pinpoint like one specific time. Like something that's come up for me, only I think because you'd mentioned Public Speaking Academy, I think that was a big step for me when I wanted to go into the speaking space. And I did work with lovely Bilal, and shout out to Bilal, as you just said. And I did some one-on-one work with him, and just attending his business seminars and things as well. But I trained up for my very first talk that I did in London, and that was a big moment for me to get on stage and really feel like I own the stage and feel like I'm meant to be here. I love it. From a space when I remember one time speaking for a group of people and actually getting really nervous, not thinking that I would, but I felt the nerves. I thought, no, I know what people are talking about when they talk about being nervous. So being able to overcome that, I think, was massive for me and has been a big part of my journey. But
just explain that deeper about nerves, because I again have had this conversation with other people as well. But what is it about nerves? Do you think nerves are they good? Are they bad? How do you interpret that?
I've always been the type of person, like I said, I'm quite confident anyway. So the first time I had that chance to speak in front of a group of people, I think showing to people could see that I was actually really still confident. But I could feel it, like I could feel my hand going like this. I thought this mic was going to fall out of my hand in a moment. And I could feel like my foot going a bit funny, like I couldn't explain it. I don't know where it came from. I was, I guess, a little bit jittery and a bit overwhelmed. And I think this is where I can only speak for myself how I've dealt with it. But other people, I can imagine it being so overwhelming for them that they have so much massive stage fright. I mean, actually, I'll take myself back to and share a little nugget of myself. There was once upon a time when they were doing a talent show in school, and I went on the stage and I went off the stage and I didn't do my act because I had massive stage fright. And it baffles me till today. I wish I was the person I am today then, but again, like I've said already, you're not supposed to be. Because I wouldn't have had that experience to share now, to show where I've come. It's almost like I needed to be that I had my stage fright moment. But yeah, I remember just feeling so overwhelmed by the judgment I'm going to get from people, or I'm going to be laughed at, or I'm not going to do this as good as again, maybe linked to the expectations I put on myself, the pressure. And I just was like, I remember it was back in the day when we had those little cassette players, and I was going to sing the song, and my friend pressed play, and then I turned around and I switched it off. I said, it's the wrong cassette. And I grabbed the cassette and I ran off the stage. So yeah, that actually happened. So yeah, from that to the person I am now, I can appreciate why a person would have nerves. I think it does serve us, because some people, if you change the language of calling it not nerves, you call it excitement. It can be excitement too, but I think there is a difference. I think some nervous energy can be anxiety and a worrying energy, whereas excitement is a bit more, you're looking forward to it. You know it's going to be a bit like, you don't know what to expect, but you're ready. So there's a thin line, I think, between the two. But just talking about nerves, it's actually, I'm actually really grateful that you brought this up, because this is a big part of the work I've actually been doing more recently over the last 6 to 12 months. And we've been talking about the nervous system itself. I've been working with people where we have compromised nervous systems. And these nervous systems will make us be in a certain mode, or even day to day, you kind of living in a survival mode and don't realize it because your nervous system is compromised. And regulating this nervous system of ours is a big part of regulating our emotions, regulating our, even just physically, regulating the way our body circulates. It's the blood and the, organs working effectively. All of these things is so fascinating. But yeah, I think where nerves are compromised, that's where a person can sometimes fall. But if you can start working on balancing that, that can start opening up doors for a lot of people.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think nerves almost frame the way that we express ourselves. And one conversation that I have quite a lot, either with my wife or other people, is around things like ego, or when you're putting yourself out there, how do you kind of approach that? What's your view of that? Because I've seen many things on social media where people are talking about that when they put themselves out there into social media, into the public eye, they then experience criticism, they experience, hateful comments or things like that. And then there's the other side of it where people that don't want to do that, or they may have the ego of that. It's okay. I don't need to do that. I mean, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But do you think you mentioned a fine line before, but do you think what's the balance between, is there a balance of putting yourself out there versus thinking that actually, do you know what? I don't want to, and almost limiting that growth.
I think something that you said there, it is up to the individual. I will always respect a person where they're at in their journey. Again, someone needs to develop a little bit more before they're in a space that they're comfortable to put themselves out there. But the truth is, you and me will know this. You sometimes have to do it when you're not comfortable. Outside your comfort zone is where you're going to achieve some new experience or open new doors for yourself. Personally, the person I am, it's natural for the work I do. I will always tell a person, put yourself out there. Get yourself out there. Why would you not? Be your own advocate. Speak for yourself. Stand up for yourself. Put yourself in a space where people will know what you're about. How else are you going to grow? I'll be honest, depending on the individual, that's not always, it's not a one size fits all. I think there are some people can be working in very quiet ways and be quietly confident. And work in a stealthy way, almost, depending on the nature of their work, where they don't sing and shout and be so present about it. But under the radar, they're doing stuff, and the people who know them in their circles they're in. So I think it does depend on the type of work a person's doing and their individual personality themselves. You always have to do things that's aligned with yourself. But I think there's certain work where it's a part of the journey is you have to put yourself out there and people need to know about you. Otherwise, you're going to be the best kept secret. Who benefits from that? You certainly won't. People who don't know you won't. So generally, I think more people than not need to be putting themselves out there and working on that. And that will definitely be a game changer for many people. But I do think it's not a one size fits all. Depending on what the person's doing.
Yeah. Do you think ego is? Do you think that can kill growth? Do you think sometimes, because you can have an ego of, and again, it's not a negative thing. Ego of thinking that I can't do it, and again, we're going back to the limiting belief. Do you think ego can almost limit growth?
I love your questions.
Always deep, aren't they?
It is deep because I think we do. First of all, we do all carry an ego. We're supposed to. It's part of being human. I think where this ego might transpire into arrogance, I think maybe that's what you're alluding to. This arrogance, again, I hate saying this, but I think it depends on the person. Some people carry it well. It's part of their nature and their personality, and they need to be that way because that's how they function and operate in the world. They make this stance. People might feel uncomfortable around them and feel like, oh God, this person's always been this way. But me and my husband were talking about this the other day, and I hope I can bring this up, even though it's a bit of a political thing. So we know how there's people have got certain really extreme views nowadays on certain people from a certain races, religions, backgrounds.
Yeah.
And he was talking about going into this place where there's loads of flags up and stuff, and he's like, it's made some of his work people feel uncomfortable. And I sat there and I said, but those people have a right to their views as well. I said, we need them to exist in order to know what's the opposite. Otherwise, how would we function in this world? I really believe in that law of polarity. So I believe that as weird as it sounds saying this, arrogant people need to exist in order for humble people to exist.
Oh, yeah.
How would you know who a humble person is if we didn't have something to compare it to? And you need a variety of people in the work. Like certain people who have like a boss energy, people label them as maybe being egotistical or arrogant. And I'm not saying that I do truly believe you can be successful in these roles without that characteristic, but sometimes depending on the industry, it goes with some of the territory. So I think if it doesn't suit you as a person, it's not part of your natural way of being, that can definitely destroy you. People can see through it straight away, who are a bit more wiser and a bit more experienced. You'll come in a room and come across a certain way and you'll think, man, that just feels fake, it feels not them, it feels inauthentic. And then you just write that person off. I mean, an example I'll give is, sorry for a little spoiler for anybody who watches Love is Blind. I won't say what season it is if that helps. But there was one character on there where he was so lovely and nice and he was like falling in love with this girl and saying, yes, you're my forever person. But all of a sudden he switched on her and started making comments to her about her appearance and things. And then when he went back out to the group session where they were all meeting up for a mingle or a drink or whatever, and then he started proper being Larry and first of all trying it on with one of his mates' fiancés and laying it on really thick. He kept on saying, like, swearing a lot and acting like he doesn't care. When they did the reunion, he actually reflected and they actually said to him, they go, you alienated men and women. Like, even the men don't want to be your friend. And I think that's where he became so egotistical and so in a space where he was not being his true self. People were put off by it massively. The women were like running away from him. The men don't want to be his friend. And he was a massive example of somebody who's was doing it. And sometimes people will do it. It's linked to insecurities is what I'd say. I think when a person can be quite insecure, they're masking this insecurity, so they're coming up. I think some people can go too far with the whole fake it till you make it, and they don't understand that concept. And so they might be trying to fake it, so they're creating this bravado attitude or alpha attitude, which becomes a bit distasteful to people around them. So I think it's very like, be mindful about it, be as authentic as you can. And if your authentic way is to be a little bit, I guess, arrogant, then it works. But if that's not the way you're meant to be, it will not work, and it will.
What's your view on that phrase, fake it till you make it? Because you hear it quite a lot, you know, but what's your honest opinion on that?
Honest opinion on that is, yeah, do it. Delulu is the Salulu. That's what my mother thinks. Because I think the work I do in the manifestation field is all about visualizing and putting it out to the universe. And it's always this end space that we want to be here, but we're not there now. But rather than fake it till you make it, I like to say act as if you're already that person, act as if you've already achieved it, act as if you're already, receiving that thing. Because when you start acting as if, and there's a little bit of, some people will call it being fake or that's not your true reality, but when we start understanding the layers to what is even reality, which is again a deeper conversation maybe for another day, but what is even reality? It's like, well, if you want to manifest and create your own reality, what do you want that to look like? You have to be clear about it. And if you're like, okay, I want to operate like an entrepreneur, but you're not an entrepreneur, well, act as if. What would an entrepreneur be doing? Maybe it's things like, what would their routine look like? What time are they waking up? Where are they going for networking meetings? What kind of conversations are having? Who are they? Are they following people up? Once they connect with people, start operating that way, and that will become your norm. It's not. The interesting thing is, like, a program I've been working on recently is a diabetes program. Funny enough, might feel like, what's that got to do with the work you do? But it's about people who are basically doing a life change for themselves. They're making massive changes to their diet, their exercise, but also stress management. And anytime we're learning something new, we've got to do it, even though it's not the normal way of us doing something. So even if we're eating differently, how would a healthy person eat? How would a person who's not got diabetes eat? It's almost like act like them. So that person isn't going to be having all the sugary foods. That person isn't going to be having those foods with all the hidden sugars in it. And so there's an element of anything new you want to do, you have to train up in it and start something, a new skill, a new neurology we create around it. So I think it taps into that. I think it's very powerful if you do it right.
Yeah. What belief, and we're kind of getting towards the close now, but what belief did you personally have to unlearn to grow? And this could probably apply to anyone, really, is that because I always find when people are learning and developing, it's sometimes it's not always about a course or a workshop or a teacher or a mentor. They have to go through the hard yards, as they call it. But in your own experience, what was that like? Did you have to unlearn something to develop, or, you know?
Definitely. It's the short answer. We all have to unlearn things. I think there's still things I'm still working on, 100%. I'm still working on certain things that need to be unlearned and, relearned and learned in a new way. If I think about a specific thing, that's really getting me thinking now, because I don't even know where to start with that. But I think certain beliefs that I had growing up in the family was massive towards me being a certain way. So me to an extent, but I look back at myself and I'm like, an example I'll give, I was brought up in a very judgy environment, and I think a lot of us maybe do. I don't know how many people will relate to this, but, drop a comment wherever you watch this if you think that happens in your life. But that judgment around me was even like, oh my God, look at the way those children are being, those family. Oh my God, the kids are like this. Or can you believe so-and-so did this? Like anything anybody did, it was massive judgment around how they're behaving or operating, or they're not being, like civilized people or something. And I didn't realise I was being this way in the early days. I remember actually having a lot of judgment. I used to think I'm such a non-judgmental person. And I used to, say, for example, an example is college. You're in college, there's a lot of group of people that do go out and drink. They enjoy, they used to call it sessioning at the time. They'd always go in the park and session and things. And I would really look down on that and be like, oh my God, ain't they got no shame? What would their parents be thinking? Like, if I was like a granny mode. And I'd be like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? They should know better. I think that's just, disgusting behaviour. I'd be like that, and I wouldn't want to associate with them or want to chill with them too much. I feel like you're not my vibe. Even up to the point, I think when people were in relationships and had girlfriend, boyfriends, I'd be like, they should have more respect, they should, and stuff like that. And I didn't realise how prudish I was being. Again, I didn't even know that was a word until later on in life I learned what that is, and I was just like, and the work I did and developed on myself and healed myself and started changing the way I was looking at the world and people. Oh my God, how much I've done a 180 from that. I pride myself on holding a non-judgmental space for people now, because anybody can come to me with anything. They can say anything, and they're like, Suman, I love talking to you about this because I'd speak to anybody else, they will judge me for this. You don't. And I'm like, believe you me, I was the person 20 years ago I probably would have, but the person I am today I don't. And I'm so grateful that's something I unlearned, because that's not a fair space to give anybody. That nobody deserves that. And to be honest, it came from a place where I was probably judged a lot for things, and I didn't like it. So it's funny how we can supposed to be with people how we don't actually like, but we have to unlearn those things in order to be better for ourselves, but be better for others.
Yeah. I mean, look, I definitely think that you're somebody who helps people achieve a sense of freedom. You've got that open, approachable kind of attitude. But what does true personal freedom mean for you?
God, definitely coming, and I can say this proudly as a brown woman, as a woman. Sometimes I feel like growing up with this way of being where you have to be a certain way, you have to fit a certain mold, you have to do things a certain way. Like, even when me and my cousins and my sisters would get to we'd laugh really loudly. Oh, you girls are laughing too loud. Girls aren't supposed to laugh that loud. I'm like, I'm a loud person. I'm a loud and proud person. So for me, my freedom has been just being unapologetically myself. Whether that means sometimes I can sometimes have a little rant, whether it means I can be a bit sarcastic and not quote unquote how women should be. I'm like, actually, I'm just being me. Why are we putting a gender on this? Like, it's got nothing to do with my gender. Even sometimes when they say behave, act your age, it's like, why do we have to put these limits on ourselves? So I think being limitless in every way, shape and form is the true freedom. But up to a point where you're not harming and hurting others. I think I have to just disclaimer there, because there's people who will just go out and do whatever they wanted otherwise, and it's like, as long as you're just in your own space, you're just being your brilliant, authentic self, and that's helping yourself and helping others. What's the harm? So it's just as long as it's not creating any kind of harm and you're not doing some destructive behaviour. But I think, yeah, that's true freedom to just authentically just be yourself, show up as your true self, speak openly, don't have so much overthinking and reserved judgments on yourself and others. And yeah, just having that automation around your decision making, I think that's a big part of it too.
So, it's, what, I feel like every conversation we've had over the last 5 years, there's always something new and there's always something that I'll take away and definitely take inspiration from. But there's always the same question that I'll ask you at the end of every episode is, and this is like a closing thought really. But if someone listening feels stuck today, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, what are you currently stuck on? Do a journaling exercise. If you want to do some deep breathing beforehand, get yourself centered, get yourself in this like zone, whatever that is. Make sure you're in a space that you're not being distracted by others. You're not going to be called upon to be distracted. Put your phone on silent. Maybe play some gentle music and just get into this space and give yourself, maybe even if it's just 10, 20 minutes, it does not have to be hours and hours of work at this stage. Give yourself 10, 20 minutes and just write down what you're stuck on and maybe start evolving that why, what could be going on. And even if you don't have the answer to that, make something up. Think maybe this could be a reason, even though you might write down and think it's not because of that. Just write it down, because what will happen is that will bounce an idea in your head to think of something else and then think of something else. And eventually you'll write stuff down and something will be written there. You'll be like, I don't want to admit it, but this seems to be why. This is the reason I'm stuck. So again, once you can identify the reason behind it, you'll know what to start working on if you wish to work upon it.
Yeah. This is great. Honestly, I had so much material prepared for this episode and I've probably not even got through half of it. But I think because the conversations we have are always they're always so deep. You elaborate so well into all the topics that we discuss. Now, in terms of anyone who's listening today, and how can they reach out to you and how can they contact you?
So they can contact me either. I usually always say social media is the best way. I am on Instagram, manifestation.maven. However, I am also on Facebook, Suman Manghra. You should be able to find me. My name is quite unique, so hopefully there's not duplicate people like myself out there. LinkedIn is also a great space to see the work I'm doing and connect with me on that professional basis too. So my email is suman@manifestationmaven.co.uk. And we can also provide the contact details in the little snap that we give when we put the episode out. But yeah, absolutely connect with me. I'd love to speak to you, whether it's just about something you might be stuck on, whether you might want to work with me on a one-on-one basis or even organisational basis. You want me to come in and do some workshops or talks. Open to doing any kind of work in that space. And, I love it. So why not utilise me and my brain?
Fantastic. Well, Suman, honestly, do you know what? From 5 years ago, from when we first did the episode to now, it's been a journey, even not just for both of us, but I think for the podcast in general. Yeah. I just want to thank you for being the first guest on season 4. Again, as you've always been the inaugural guest. And as I said, really appreciate you coming on and look forward to having you again next time.
Thank you so much. So it's always a pleasure and privilege and much appreciated.
Conversations like this remind us that real growth doesn't always begin with action. Sometimes it begins with awareness. Awareness of how we think, how we respond to challenges, and how deeply our internal world influences the reality that we experience. Today's discussion was not just about mindset or manifestation. It was about understanding ourselves at a much deeper level. Because sustainable success is rarely built on external strategy alone. It's built on clarity, emotional resilience, and alignment. The ZoShow is part of a wider mission under the Zoheb Sadiq umbrella. A mission focused on helping individuals and organizations build stronger brands, clearer messages, and more intentional growth. If today's conversation gave you a new perspective, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you stay connected to future episodes. And if you're a founder, creative, leader, or change maker with a story or insight that could help others grow, I would love to hear from you. Because this platform exists to document real journeys, share meaningful ideas, and create conversations that leave a lasting impact. Thank you for listening. This is the ZoShow.